I've been strong and I've been broken within a moment. I've been faithful and I've been reckless at every bend. I've held everything together and watched it shatter. I've stood tall and I've crumbled in the same breath. I've wrestled and I've trembled towards surrender. Chased my heart adrift and drifted home again. Plundered blessing till I've been desperate to find redemption. And every time I turn around, Lord, you're still there. I was found before I was lost. I was yours before I was not. It's grace to spare for all my mistakes, and that part just wrecks me. 'Cause I know I don't deserve this kind of love. Somehow this kind of love is who you are. It's a grace I could never add up to be somebody you still want. But somehow you love me as you find me. Yeah. Who am I to think your glory needs my praises? But if this borrowed breath is yours, Lord, take it all. 'Cause you are faithful and you are gracious, and I'm just grateful to think you don't need a single thing, but still you want my heart. I was found before I was lost. I was yours before I was not. There's grace to spare for all my mistakes. That part just wrecks me. 'Cause I know I don't deserve this kind of love. Somehow this kind of love is who you are. It's a grace I could never add up to be somebody you still want. Somehow you love me as you find me. You love me as you find me. Love me as you find me. Your love's too good to leave me here. 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 If you want my heart, I won't second guess. 'Cause I need your love more than anything. I'm in, I'm yours. Your love's too good to leave me here. Your love's too good to leave me. If you want my heart, I won't second guess. 'Cause I need your love more than anything. I'm in, I'm yours. Your love's too good to leave me here. love's too good to leave me here. Your love's too good to leave me now. No, I don't deserve this kind of love. Somehow, this kind of love is who you are. It's a grace I could never add, to be somebody you still want. Somehow, you love me as you find me. You love me as you find me. Oh, love me as you find me. Love me as you find me.
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Sean, the student director here at Bay Hope, and we are in week 2 of Beneath the Mask, where we are taking a look at the masks we wear to cover up our imperfections and insecurities, to impress and please others, and to protect ourselves from hurt and pain. And last week, we discussed the problem with living for the appearance of perfection on the outside, when in reality, we are all just like broken, cracked, fragile clay jars. And our perfection comes from our connection to the living God and the light we carry in our hearts. Rather than trying to appear perfect for others, we should be living truthfully and pointing others towards our perfect God and the love, grace, and abundant life He offers. But that brings up a question. Is God who He says He is? Can we trust that God is authentic in His love for us, and that if we are open and honest with Him, we won't be let down or judged or abandoned? I struggle with being the real me. Everyone else struggles too. How can I be sure God isn't two-faced or putting on a front towards me? How do I know that I can trust Him to come through when I need Him? I think to answer that question, we first have to look at why we struggle to trust other people. I mean, I've had friends disappoint me throughout my life. Maybe it was a case of us growing apart, or our interests in groups changed, or maybe it was an incident or situation that led to hurt feelings, or me feeling ignored or let down. And after enough of that, it made me feel jaded towards relationships and opening up with other people. And now that we've gone through this shutdown, the pandemic, having to see plans and events canceled, missing out on big life moments and memories, losing times with our family and friends, it's easy to be caught up in being let down. Being let down. Can you think of someone who has disappointed you and let you down? It's probably not hard, is it? You know, people are always going to let us down. They're always going to hurt or disappoint us. And the more it happens, the more likely we are to build up that wall, that tough exterior, or to put on a mask to try to appear happy and at a safe social distance. The less likely we are, though, to trust someone again. So a few weeks ago, we posted on our Instagram asking why it's sometimes hard to trust others. And overwhelmingly, you said, being let down in the past. And you know what? I don't blame you. Because we've all experienced hurts like that in the past. And it's hard for anyone to keep trusting after a history of disappointments. When we look back at our relationships with other people, it's easy to see why they're hard to trust. When we look back at what God's done for us, we get a very different picture. Now, the other question we asked on Instagram was, why is it sometimes difficult to trust God? And the most common answers were along the lines of, we don't understand His ways. Or He hasn't shown up the way we expect, or my prayer wasn't answered the way I wanted it to be. And I understood all of them. They all resonated with me in some way, but that first one may actually include our solution. When we think about the fact that the God we're talking about created the universe, designed every living thing, and spoke it into being, and as Psalm 139 says, knit us together inside our mothers, and saw us before we were born, we might have to consider that we aren't on the same level of understanding as God. You and I can't put human characteristics on the God that is so much more. We tell ourselves we can't trust God because we've placed our own human limitations on Him. Philippians 4 says, God will supply all our needs, but maybe what we think we need isn't the same as what God knows we really need. Psalm 55 says, God will sustain you, and the righteous will never be shaken. But maybe God's definition of shaken is different than ours. Peter wrote in his first letter that we may suffer a little while, but maybe our time frame for a little while is not quite equal to God's, not even in the ballpark. But when we get caught up in our troubles and our hurts and our disappointments, we forget how God was there for us. We expect God to keep bad things from us or to fix our problems. And it's easy to forget that God never promised we would have an easy life. God does promise to be there with us through whatever we're going through. So because his ways are not our ways and his thoughts are above our thoughts, we have to trust that God knows what's best. We have to take that step of faith to trust that God will pull us through, that he won't let us down like our friends or family, that he won't break a promise or hurt us like the people in our lives are bound to do, even though it may look different than what we expect. So I want you to think about this. Is God only faithful and true when he answers our prayers the way we want? Is God only trustworthy and loving when he fits into our expectations? When we look back, we can see how God was there for us. We can remember what he's done for us, even when it didn't go as we planned. And it helps us to trust that God is who he says he is. We can remember how God saved the Israelite people from hundreds of years of slavery. We remember how he provided for them in the desert. And we can read and remember how God protected and fought for his people generation after generation. And we sing all the time how God freed us through Jesus Christ. And we do that partly to help us remember. I remember feeling broken and humiliated when my college dream crashed and burned. But I remember that I trusted God, who led me to a more fulfilling life in ways I never would have thought. I remember when my high school relationship fell apart, but through that, God allowed me to learn who I was as a person. And he eventually led me to meet my best friend and my wife. I remember my family praying and praying when my grandpa had a stroke, but he still died after months in the hospital. We were devastated, but we trusted God. And God eventually called me to a job in their town where I got to be with my grandma as she healed and was able to build a great lasting friendship with her. And Allie and I waited and prayed for years of disappointment for a family. But we trusted that God would answer, even in a way we didn't expect. And guess what? He came through. The more we remember God's consistency, the more we have confidence to trust God in the future. We just have to remember to remember. The Israelite people did this all the time to remember God's faithfulness. To them, remembering wasn't just thinking about something in the past. It was a physical act. Remembering was an active thing. They would use visuals, set up physical reminders like stones, hold big joyous festivals to remember what God had done. And when they did the action, it reconnected them to God. So I was thinking, we can't really give you all a stone right now, and we can't really hold a big week-long party to help us remember God's faithfulness. So what is something that we could do? Well, we all have masks. What if when we put on our mask, instead of thinking about everything we've missed out on or lost, instead of thinking how disappointed we are, how much we've had to suffer through this time, what if we use the mask to remember how God has actually pulled us through? Situations may not turn out how we expected, but God is still working in our lives. Our prayers may not always be answered the way we want, but we know that God is still faithful to answer. We may have trouble in our life, but we can know that God is still with us. So how about this? Each time you put on your mask, instead of thinking how disappointed you are, use it as a physical reminder of what God has done for you. And take that memory with you as confidence that you can continue to trust God in the future. And remember that God is who he says he is. And sometime down the road, when we hopefully don't need these anymore, maybe I'll keep my mask hanging by my door so that whenever I come and go, I will remember God's faithfulness. I will be confident. You can be confident that you are who God says you are. No masks, no filters, no wax coatings, just you, his masterpiece. Let's pray. God, sometimes it's hard to trust in you because we've lost the ability to trust in other people. But when people have let us down, you have always been there. When people have broke promises, you have kept true to yours. Help us to remember that we may not always understand the way that you work. We may not always hear the answer that we want. But you are always faithful, unchanging, unfailing. That you love us and you've called us not because of who we are, but because of simply how much you love us. Help us to put our trust in you so that when people let us down, you can hold us up. We love you, God. Thanks for loving us.